let's talk about some stuff that seems impossible. Sometime back, I was watching a tarot pick-up pile reading, and I don't remember exactly what it was about, but it led me to another video that the tarot reader made, talking about things that seem like they're impossible, and how a lot of the things that seem like they're impossible for us right now in this moment only seem that way because we have certain beliefs about them, and those beliefs don't necessarily need to be true, other than because we believe in it. And like, as somebody who is generally more skeptical, I think my tendency is to be like, but surely there are things that are, really quite impossible. Like maybe just like physically not possible. Like, I don't know, like for example, for me to be able to comprehend or see an object in 4D feels impossible. But I think what is important is not really whether it is absolutely true or not. I think what is maybe a bit more useful is, what do you think is impossible for you, that you actually want, right? Like, do I actually want to see things in 4D? I mean, like, it'll be interesting, but no, not really. But out of the things that you do want and which you think are impossible, but you really actually do want it, are there limiting beliefs that you have that kind of stop you from thinking that it's true? And I think the part of her video that made it more striking to me was really the part where she was like saying, think about the times in the past where there have been things that you thought were impossible, and which are actually, in fact, just something that's quite normal for you right now. And I think it's true how there could be things that, like, at one point in our lives feel very difficult or impossible. And then at some point it became something that we have, or we achieved, or that we experience. And after that it sort of just becomes normal, if that makes sense. Or like no longer impossible and possibly familiar, maybe. And I think what was particularly useful about that, watching that video, was how it got me to sit down and list a bunch of things that I thought were impossible and which I have since achieved or gotten to experience. And in fact, kind of forgot that at one point I thought these things were impossible. So I'm gonna list a few of them. I don't have the list available for me to look at right now, but off the top of my head, I do remember a few of these. Some of them are rather frivolous, so I'm gonna say those first. Things like, I never thought I would own like 20 ball jointed dolls. This was like when I was much younger, in my teenage years, where I didn't have an income, and dolls dolls still are in the range of about 500 to $1,000 each, and that's not counting their clothes, eyes, wigs, accessories, and all that stuff. So to not just have one doll, which was already a bit of an ordeal for me to get, like I went to a lot of trouble to get my first doll, and then at that point I did want more dolls, and I think at one point I did have 20. I don't think I've counted the number, but I probably did have 20 at one point. And then it's kind of like, at some point, it's not really that I got more money, but it's just like as the years went past, all the little bits that I saved up added up together, and as long as I didn't sell my dolls, eventually, if I just continued to buy dolls, I would eventually reach a point of having more, right? So that is kind of like a frivolous or simpler example, but I guess you can kind of see that as money as well, like a feeling of standing from a point being like, I don't think I'll ever be able to have a certain amount of money, and then realizing, hey, actually if I spend on stuff that I want and then save the rest, in a way that doesn't make me feel deprived for not having enough money to spend, but also not depriving myself in the future by spending all my money now, I can actually get to a point where I do have more money than I thought would be possible. And that is also true for me, although I don't think, weirdly enough, I think I've never really looked at money like dollar value and be like, oh, I don't think it's possible for me to have a X dollar value. I don't think I've ever really thought of it that way. I think because I've never particularly coveted money the same way I've coveted dolls, if that makes sense. Like, my desire for owning more dolls was strangely enough more than I wanted just money. I think money to me at that point was really just a way to exchange for more dolls, or for right now, maybe not my dolls and hobbies, but like having the means to live comfortably enough and to spend a bit here and there if I feel like it, and to just, live and enjoy living. So yeah, I guess that would be the first one. Another one would be, I think, well, I guess a more recent one. It's really about work. So I just signed the contract for a new full-time job, and I think I don't realize this, but in my head I do inherently have some ideas of, a full-time job means 5 days a week, and feeling like the moment I have a full-time job, that is what I would need to commit to. But for this particular job, I did a few trial shifts, and then after that we discussed like what would work out in terms of working, because they did like me working there and I enjoyed working there as well. And when they realized that I was somewhat hesitant, and I never thought I would be somebody who would open up in a job, it's not an interview, but like a job situation, to be like, actually, as much as I would like to work here, and as much as I do need to have some money. I also really want to spend time making videos, even though they don't make money. And for me to be somebody who would share that with my employers, I won't say it's impossible, but I would say it's something that I never really imagined I would have done, especially a few years ago. And I think for me to be willing to say that is one thing, which, I'm proud of that I can do that now. But also, for them to then respond gracefully, I guess, in saying like, we do have other working options, like if you don't want a 5-day work week, we can do a 4-day, or maybe you want to do a part-time instead of a full-time. They opened up discussion for other options that would satisfy what I want. And that to me also feels a bit like an impossibility. Yeah. As much as I try not to judge, I think it's reasonable given, the kind of companies that I've encountered. I mean, just like not even anything bad in particular, just like in general, and like also the kind of companies that people around me work at. I think it's very common and it's quite reasonable for people to be like, I don't really expect a company to be willing to, give other terms and to, it's not even but I mean, I guess it's a negotiation in terms of like we're trying to figure out what works for both of us. But it's not a negotiation in which like one party is trying to manipulate the other into doing something. So I think for that to even have happened also to me feels like an impossibility. So I do now have what seems very impossible at one point, which is a full-time job with 4 days work week and a salary that is enough for me. It's very tempting to be like, oh, I could want more. And like, yeah, I could do with more, but I could handle this as well. So I think just the fact that like this was even possible, like this kind of working conditions being much closer to what wouldn't kill my soul, I guess, is maybe a dramatic way of putting it, but nonetheless probably still quite true. Yeah, I think before this would have felt very impossible. I mean, even now I still am a little scared of saying it for fear that like saying it would jinx it, I guess. And just saying that makes me feel like I need to touch wood right now. So yeah, I think with impossible things, with things that we think are impossible, it's really I think it's worth spending time to figure out what do we believe in that makes that thing that we want seem impossible. And yeah, like if it's really something that you do want and you're willing to put in something of yourself, whether your time, your effort, your energy, whatever it is, into it, then maybe it doesn't have to be impossible, and maybe the only thing, well, not the only thing, but a very big thing that is potentially stopping it is that belief that that thing is impossible when it doesn't have to be. I'm gonna end it here right now. There's something itchy. I don't know whether insect has crawled into my pants. So that's all for today right now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.